Hey, Dave, it's great to be back here at Sounds Like Autism.
Yeah, it is. Welcome back to the virtual inclusion tour. How you been, bro?
Good. What about yourself? How's Tennessee?
Everything is cool. Everything is cool. I'm just glad to be back on the virtual road with you, sir. And this
Yup.
time we are going to Connecticut.
That is the original home of the helicopter in America.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's cool. My aviation fans will be interested in that. That's very cool. But that is not the reason we're going, and it's also not just that we arbitrarily pick a state, right? We don't do that. We find the exciting programs, right? And
Yeah.
usually we concentrate on employers, but there's more to employment than just clocking in and out. There's also a lot of things that go along with that, like social skills and like getting there, right?
Indeed.
So we're really excited to have Driving with Autism on the show, right, Josh?
Yeah, driving is critical, and it's important to get from place A to B, and really gives folks their independence. So this is a really interesting one.
Yeah, Josh passed his road test real quick. It took me a few more times. So Josh could probably teach driver's ed way before
No,
I
I
could.
shouldn't.
Way before
No,
I could.
leave it at that.
But so no, that being said, welcome to our friend Andrew Arboe. Andrew is a really cool neurodivergent individual himself, who runs this program, Driving with Autism, in Connecticut. But it is a national program, another one of these programs that benefits people all over the place. Andrew, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Driving with Autism?
Hello. My name is Andrew Arboe, and I'm the founder of Driving with Autism. It is a online program in all 50 states, and we deal with driver education, more like driver prep. We're not a driving school. We're kind of more of an online school that helps prep new drivers that are kind of exploring the new idea of driving down. All of this came from my own personal experiences. I was in community college back 2017, 18, and I was close to graduating and I was looking at employment opportunities. I was going as a disability specialist at Manchester Community College in Connecticut. I saw a lot of the autism positions. I've specialized a lot on pretty much big time. That a lot of those positions required a license, so it became my main motivator. Connecticut was pretty interesting in terms of barriers since transportation options are kind of all over the place. Central Connecticut is good for like public buses, but when you try to go to other corners of the state, there's not a lot of resources out there. So that like the south part of Connecticut is pretty decent for trains. Other spots like the east side of Connecticut is not so good for public transportation. So I kind of dealt with some of those barriers on my end, and there wasn't really a lot of autism resources out there before I got involved. Eventually, a lot of just figuring out by myself and just trial and error, I managed to get my license and I created a presentation that intended for outreach, and I just got myself involved there. I did some partnering up with a driving school. Partnership kind of went elsewhere, and I decided to move out. I wanted to do something that's a lot more national based, something where I could do in all 50 states and I'm not like restricted to one state. So that's where I created Driving with Autism, to do more national work and to partner up with a lot of autism organizations out there.
Wow, that's really awesome, man. So can you tell our users exactly like how does this happen? Let's say someone just joins, like what are they gonna expect?
Oh yeah, sure. Our main function at Driving with Autism is that we have a 7-part webinar series. It's live and it's taught by myself. The 7-part go over specific topics like motivation is the first one. I have a session on parents one. Each one has value because when I was talking to motivation, I really based the materials on what new drivers might be inspired by, why they want to. Having speaking with a lot of new drivers and listen to parents over time, there's a lot of different motivations. Fun, college could be school, could be college, it could be employment. From my own. So I try to make these materials somewhere that have a lot of value, and I've made it with the intention of knowing that there is no way I can speak over everyone. And that's honestly perfectly okay. So I made this so anyone can get something out of it. So it's again, a 7-part series. The topics include parenting, how parents can accept the journey, as there's a lot of mixed feelings on how parents may feel a sense of anxiety. My own dad felt anxious during my time. It took him several years, more like 1 or 2, to kind of finally sink into that idea. And now he's kind of like my support coach in a way. He texts me when there's like ice or some other weird weather condition. So it kind of gets better over time. Other topics include sensory processing, how to deal with sensory overload, dealing with anxiety, dealing with changes, because well, driving is filled with changes and was a level of adaptability that has to be considered. So I try to tackle those topics that kind of gives people ideas of what driving looks like, and it's something that they want to do. So at the end of the 7-part, it brings up all together and kind of go over what they can do at this point. And there'll be some worksheets that have been filled out that will be get over time in our courses that can help them ship up to own roadmap and create something that they could use for themselves. And there's like 2 packages, one just general courses, and the other it comes with a resource library, comes with other state-specific resources, mostly DMV, and in case they have any of the autism ID stuff. It can be, the idea itself can be a little weird, but in case for people that want to try it out, I try to list that whenever possible. And the content of the resources vary depending on what package you decide to buy. And then package 2 also comes with a personal consultation with myself. Each one has a specific value, and depending on partnerships, the prices can be addressed a little bit. Just depends on the financial stuff in regards when my own outreach.
That's fascinating. It's so interesting to see so many exciting virtual programs pop up lately. Silver linings, I guess, with quarantine and all that. You know, a lot of people have moved mountains in the virtual space, and it's so great to connect with like-minded people and connect the needs of so many people across the United States. You mentioned financials, and I want to get to that. I noticed on your website something about insurance 101 and navigating the financial side of things. I think that's really neat because when you talk about whether or not someone can drive, you don't talk about all the nuance that comes along with that besides the actual hard skill of kind of driving. So can you speak to that part of the program a little bit?
I'm sure I'll do the best I can, since a lot of it I kind of go over like a script. Like I'm gotten a bit familiar with thanks to the material. I had a huge help. I had had an advisor who's part of Planning Cost of Spectrum, Andrew Comru, who is an autistic adult that developed his own company, and he was a huge help in writing up the materials. Like he went through everything from how to deal with buying a used car, if you want to get like a new one, and kind of go over all the nuances. Like he was a major help, and a lot of it where I'm able to kind of script it out as I'm doing that topic. Because for me, a lot of my passions, my own special interest is just a lot of it just outreaching to organizations, what I can do to help organizations, give them something of value. Because I also have free resources like the ebook and the blogs, was like a blog series that I have on the website as well. So I have those. So doing the financial one was particularly fascinating to me. And some of it I dealt with myself during the pandemic back in April 2020. I had no choice but to get a new car. Well, I got like a used car. I had to sign like I think it was a co-signing with me and my own dad. Subaru Plaza. I was forced. My old brilliant car, the Toyota Matrix, had an oil leak, so it was time to let it go. God, I still love that car. I still love it, but it was kind of, I had to make that choice. Oh, also it would get more expensive. It just wouldn't make sense. I also try to include those real life elements to the presentations as well. And you bet I'm going to talk about how lovely the Matrix is and how I was no choice to let it go so I can get a Subaru.
Wow, Subaru, that's awesome. Those are cool cars.
Yeah, my dad just got one actually, so
Oh,
they're good.
that's awesome. Well, tell us a little bit more about like the overall experience and the impressions that you get of some of your participants in the program, right, Josh?
Yeah, yeah. Do you find that the neurodivergent students you have a lot of the similar issues and struggles that you've had when you're learning how to drive?
Good question. One thing I definitely want to get out of the way is I absolutely will not speak for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a point that's honestly okay, because there are a lot of people that have a lot of very different circumstances. Like I've done several consultations through Planning Across the Spectrum right before my company started. It kind of allowed me to speak with like new drivers and parents. Others have like specific barriers, like they want a more specific driving instructor, but it's really the area that kind of holds them back, because that area just does not have that driving instructor. For other people, it could be something like anxiety. There could be some other conditions. Like there's a lot of very a lot of different aspects that kind of go into that. And something when I do a consultation with someone, I like to kind of go over any sort of specific aspect, like the town or the area that happen to be in, what transportation options it happens to be in that town. Yeah, just kind of get my teeth into their perspective and just kind of understand what their needs might be. I wanted to have ongoing kind of seasonal series. I accepted that at the beginning it will take some time since it's a new company, and I'm using these next few months, especially this month, to make sure all the systems are in place. If you have no systems, you're doomed to fail. And while reality TV, I know I've seen enough bar rescue and kitchen nightmares to know what happens if no systems come up. So I'm a huge believer in making sure systems are in place, that was a reason to pages on the website and how I do things. So things might change over time. I might add a few new pages or two. Yeah, kind of just troubleshooting and just adapting to whatever reactions I get. But things are going really well right now, so I'm taking it, and I'm encouraging all future partnerships to kind of just be open and suggest changes. Like I just love collaborating, and I'd rather do that when otherwise, and not change and end up being on a show like those reality shows.
That's awesome. So many of the best programs that we've found are started by people who are neurodivergent themselves, and it really seems like you have
Yes.
such an awesome approach to creating this program. Thank you, and we're going to be sure to suggest it to all of our friends. And speaking of like the wider community, maybe people who don't know you yet, Andrew, if you could tell the world, including neurodivergent people, one thing, what would that be?
But yeah, just kind of just embrace what you want to do. Like even for the community, like if you believe in something else, absolutely fine. Like I know for this, driving is absolutely not going to be for everyone. And I'm hoping in the future I want to do something with other companies that does also stuff like public bus training, like other alternative options. Because if driving just doesn't seem to work for someone, like it makes sense, makes sense. And I always look for red flags during my consultations. If there's like a specific condition that might make driving problematic, so honestly, I want this to kind of be able to embrace the individuality, that it's not a one size fits all. I'm aiming for my company to be not a one size fits all sort of thing. And the courses kind of reflect a lot of the possibilities, because when you go inside, when you're in your own car, you are the master of that car. You get to use what inside tools you can happen to use. Like for me, I use a lot of video game music as an example. It makes me hyper focus. I would love to drive, but I'm stuck at home for the next several days. So good luck on my end. But yeah, like it absolutely does not have to be a one size fits all. Just do you. Be safe, and you don't have to do from what the rest of the community is doing. Like I think this is an option that should exist, and I am in no intention want to take away from buses or trains and whatever else sort of systems are out there.
So how can people get involved if they wanted to?
You can go on Driving with Autism website. www.autismdriving.com. And we also have you could also find us on Facebook. The same one, Driving with Autism. They just show up. And we also have a LinkedIn page. Also search up Driving with Autism. And we also has an Instagram account. And we recently done a live stream with Autism Career Pathways in California. It happened last week and it was a lot of fun. So you should be able to search if you're there.
Awesome. We're going to be sure to put all this information in the show notes for them, for all of our listeners, and talk about this program any chance we get.
Indeed.
Thank you for being on.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
Wow, Josh, what did you think?
Well, I think that's awesome. I'm more sentimental than Dave, and I think it's neat that it seems like in this time period, if you really think about it, like more and more neurodivergent people are stepping up to the plate when it comes to advocacy, business, or just getting out there. So I find that really neat, and it's exciting. It really is.
Yeah.
And what's exciting. That being said, January 25th, and I can't believe it's like right here. January 25th is going to be the 3rd birthday of Sounds Like Autism. Dave, we've been doing this thing for 3 years. I mean, man, I want to let you know how Sounds Like Autism originally started, because it's an interesting story. So pretty much, Dave and I, we were thinking like, okay, let's do something. So we're like, okay, maybe a picture book, like for a kid. So I bought a whole bunch of supplies, a whole bunch. I started drawing and stuff, and Dave and I, we have meetings, remember? And eventually, I made a fateful phone call to publishers, and I realized, oh man, it's this price wise, this isn't gonna work.
So our budget was $0.
Yeah, exactly. And so then Dave starts talking about remember he used to do punk rock. So he always talk about his punk rock days, and he found some little Blue Yeti microphone or something in your garage. Remember? And so
you got to use the tools that you have,
Yeah. So he said, let's do podcasts. At the time, I really didn't listen to podcasts. So I was like, oh, okay, sure. I didn't really know about podcasts at the time. And so we agreed on a date on 25th. And on that day, I remember either Dave going through the door or walking up the steps, and I totally forgot about this at this point. And he's like, okay, so we're recording, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure, of course. But that's how it started. It started with me forgetting that I was supposed to record that day.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and it's been quite a journey since then. It's certainly evolved. And we've gotten some better equipment since then, and we've gotten a lot of really, really valuable knowledge and life experience since then that has helped us, kind of evolve with this show. And it's an honor to do it. And
we've made friends too.
Yeah, of course. And if you want to support us, you can go to soundslikeautism.com. We have some great merchandise on there. Follow us on social media at Sounds Like Autism on pretty much everything. And thank you to all our listeners for being on this journey with us.
Yeah, and I love that plug, by the way, that you just did. That's a great plug, Smooth. I like that. But yeah, this is really awesome. Again, this is the last one we're doing before the 3rd year, so it's just it's awesome.
Yeah, see you all in year number 3, and who knows where. If you have a suggestion of where we should be stopping on our virtual inclusion tour, let us know, and we'll see you next month.
All right, have a good one, everyone.